It's the return of the king. Hayden Christensen is...
I'm back, baby.
When I saw those names in the credits, James Earl Jones, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, and John Williams, we haven't seen credits like that since 2005. Getting these guys back together to do something is just incredible. I think if any of those elements were missing, this wouldn't be nearly as exciting as it is. They're meant to be together. Okay, James Earl Jones is Darth Vader. Hayden Christensen is Anakin Skywalker. Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't want to see other people playing those roles. Now, if you're talking about the physical body of Vader, I don't have a problem with somebody else wearing the suit, but I'm really glad that Hayden got to actually wear the suit again. He's in the episode a lot more than I thought. Whether it's that little vision that Obi-Wan had of Hayden, which at first I didn't recognize him. I couldn't tell who he was. I'm like, man, I'm blind as a bat. Maybe my wife is right. I do need glasses. It's easy to get caught in the excitement of seeing these characters again reunited and overlook everything else. The good news is that I think overall most everything works in this episode. And as long as they keep building on this series will end in spectacular form. So I think they're going the right way. But anyways, let's get into it. First off, some of the best parts of this episode are the interactions between Leia and Obi-Wan. There's scenes where they're traveling together. At one point, she has a very real conversation with him about her real parents. And you can see that, like, man, Obi-Wan, I'm sure there's a part of him that wishes he could tell Leia who her father is. But at the same time, he just found out that, like, her father's still alive, and not in a good way. He's become the worst monster in the galaxy besides from Palpatine himself. The inner turmoil that's happening there with Obi-Wan, realizing that he's protecting the daughter of who was once his best friend, you know, this guy that used to be his best friend, his brother. It's got to be heart-wrenching. Ewan McGregor is just so dang good in this role again. He's really elevating the character of Obi-Wan for me, because he does this in a really cool way, because he starts talking about what it was like leaving his family to take on the training to become a Jedi, and how he actually phrased it in a way to say that he inherited a new family, but he still thinks about his old family. And it's not something you've really ever heard Obi-Wan talking about, or really a lot of Jedi talking about. So it was really interesting to listen to Obi-Wan talk about that family aspect of it in a way that I really haven't heard any Jedi dig into before. Some really gut-wrenching lines with him and Leia. I have to give credit to, her name is Vivian Lyra Blair. She's doing a fantastic job as Leia. For a child actor, you know, a lot of times you don't expect a ton from child actors because of the fact that they're children and maybe they're not the greatest at doing, you know, nuances and subtleties, but she's doing fantastic. From the outset of this episode, though, it really emphasizes just how terrifying Vader is. There is this dark cloud looming over Obi-Wan's past in the character of Darth Vader. You almost wonder if, like, maybe Obi-Wan shouldn't have spared Anakin. Maybe he shouldn't have left him for dead, because look at what he's become. He's become this terrifying monster, in many ways way worse than what he could have been, because now he's a mechanical monstrosity. He uses that as a means to channel that fury into something very unhealthy as a Sith. I'm a little confused as to how Obi-Wan didn't know that Vader was around, because he seems to have kept tabs on things like the Inquisitors. Like, he seems to know who the Inquisitors are. How could he know that without knowing who they answer to? But you know what? That's a nitpick. I mean, look, guys, I think you can argue all day about continuity. Honestly, I'm not gonna begrudge this show for trying to explore something that maybe hasn't been directly dealt with before. The fact that Leia is spending a lot of time with Obi-Wan is interesting and something I wouldn't have expected. I think it better explains why she wanted to name her son Ben, because she's calling Obi-Wan Ben and she spends a lot of time with him. So obviously she grew an attachment to Ben Kenobi. Him taking, her son taking that name makes way more sense now. And I am glad that they're exploring that. If it means that I get to see this and I get maybe a better backstory to some things that happen in the future, I'm okay with that. I don't think it's like canon breaking stuff. I'm not too worried about that. I don't know how they did it, but James Earl Jones in the role of Vader. Jones is like 91. And if you remember watching Rogue One, you can hear his age in his voice, unfortunately. It's a little distracting, but it's like, I still liked it. I still thought he sounded great, but somehow they were able to overcome that this time. And he sounds almost exactly like he did in the original trilogy, or even, Revenge of the Sith and that little brief cameo he has. So I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, oh my gosh. And he did his lines so well. I mean, just menacing and terrifying. Some really great lines from Vader, like Obi-Wan asks him at one point, like, what have you become? And then Vader responds and he's like,
I am what you made me.
And I was just like, that just sent chills down my spine. I was like, Anakin remembers everything that happened between them, and he hasn't let it go at all. By the way, just side note, like, dude, Reva is dead. She is as good as dead, because either what's going to happen is she's not going to deliver on her promise and Vader's going to kill her, or she's going to betray Vader and he's going to kill her. So I hate to say it, but Reva, I hope she gets her story a little bit more fleshed out, because her time is coming. Unless they do a second season and she survives somehow. But by the time you get to A New Hope, all the Inquisitors, I think, are pretty much dead. There was one really cool scene in the beginning that really stood out to me, when Leia asks Obi-Wan what the Force feels like. And he asks her, like, has she ever been in a dark room and turned on the light? And then she's like, yeah. And he's like, how did that make you feel? She said, it made me feel safe. And he said, that's what the Force feels like. A line like that just really stands out, because it's a very personal way of describing the Force. I don't know. I could listen to Obi-Wan talking about the Force all day. There's 2 brutal deaths in this episode that I did not see coming. And I was just like, I know this is a kids show, but like, one little kid got his neck snapped. Another stormtrooper got sliced in half, and it was quick. I never thought I'd see something like that. Pretty cool though, actually. My leg! I was like, holy crap, Vader just killed 2 people, and one of them was a kid. He just snapped his neck. I'm like, what is he doing? Yeah, I don't know. That was a little like, oh my gosh, he's lost his mind. Yeah, the final fight with Obi-Wan and Vader, I have some mixed feelings on it. It makes sense that Vader should be dominating right now, because you can tell Obi-Wan hasn't been really practicing. He's been in hiding. He's not been using his lightsaber. He's not been using his force powers, really. He's just out of practice. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not strong, and it doesn't mean that he's not capable, but Vader has been in his prime for some time now, and Obi-Wan gets his butt handed to him. And in fact, honestly, if it wasn't for continuity's sake, it's pretty impressive that he survived the encounter at all. I do have a few problems though with that final fight, because I don't like some of the cinematography. I feel like some of the placement was just a little too, the camera was shaking a little too much. I did like that it was at night. That was kind of a cool setting. I'm not sure I really loved the area they fought in either. For some reason, I just felt like it lacked the visual fidelity that it deserved. It's like some kind of mining area that they're fighting in, some kind of, I don't know. I was a little underwhelmed by the setting. I'm almost certain there's going to be another fight. In fact, I think they confirmed there's more than one fight in the series, which is good, because if that's the only thing we get, that's a little disappointing. Because there's this line in A New Hope where Vader says,
when I left you, I was but the learner, now I am the master.
Obi-Wan's gonna have to he's gonna have to get up to snuff, It can't end like this. And so we got 3 more episodes. So I'm assuming there's going to be another fight in there, and it probably will be the epic one we've been looking for. One other last thing I'll just say too, I feel like the music was a little too generic at times. I kind of wanted to hear more of something a little bit more dynamic, maybe especially for their fight scene. Anyways, overall, I'm going to give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's better than the first 2. Let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.